Hey everybody, bam, bam, bam. I'm kicking out these videos. As you all know, if this is the only one you're watching, because I think this is the one that'll probably get watched the most, which is our heart rate video. I have already done 2 classes. Some of you were present and saw that. I live streamed both of those. The second one actually was oriented correctly, so I posted it today, and within literally, I think 30 seconds of posting it, it disappeared. And I got a message. Actually, both videos disappeared. So I was like, oh, what happened? Anyway, so I looked at this divine intervention that was allowing me to third time's a charm and practice going over this material, because I figure the more that I go over it, the more concise I can get, because I know it's a lot of material in a short period of time. This will be our longest week's worth of material. And it just takes some time to get used to present it to you guys. So I appreciate your patience with it. So heart rate, calculating resting heart rate, that's what I'm going to start with. Some people I don't even think got that information pre-class, so you might be seeing this in your packet for the first time. Again, if you don't have your week 1 class packet, I did post it in the Facebook group, so you can download it there and print it off. So calculating resting heart rate. Our resting heart rate is the number of beats, your heartbeats per minute while at complete rest. So it's an indicator. This is the one thing that I'm not sure if people realize, is that resting heart rate is actually an indicator of your physical fitness level. It can be one indicator. So in other words, the better shape you're in, probably the lower your heart rate will be. Now, there are varying factors, including medications. If you have some sort of disease or something that could possibly affect it. Sometimes it's just genetics. I know that I, for as much as I exercise, carry a little bit higher heart rate, and I always have, and I just know that about myself. So it's not a complete indicator, but basically the better shape you get in, the lower your resting heart rate will be. So we're going to use this for our target heart rate calculations. So we want to make sure we get this. Plus, as you check it over time, as you get in better shape, you may or may not, but you probably will notice that it will go down over time. So just for instance, like professional athletes, some of them have been documented as having as low as 40 beats per minute, where a normal resting heart rate for most people is between 60 to 100 beats per minute. So there's explanations in page 7 of your packet that tell you exactly how to do it. You're going to take the pulse in your neck. If you can do it when you wake up in the morning, lying down before you even sit up, that's ideal. If you have a heart rate monitor already, and let's say you have a wrist one and it's on, you can actually just do it right there on that and check it. Otherwise, you can take the pulse in your neck. For myself, I decided to just do it in my neck. I put a sticky note on my phone, which is my alarm clock, to make sure that I remember to do it as soon as I woke up in the morning before I put my feet on the ground. I know one of the gals that was in one of the classes, I think the second class, had mentioned that she couldn't find hers laying down, so she had to actually sit up, but she just sat up in bed and took it, and that's fine if you need to do that. Just try not to get up and around yet before you do it. So get that resting heart rate, document it, and then mine, but for instance, was 63 beats per minute. Now, I'd taken it prior to that, just in the middle of the day. I thought, oh, I've been sitting for a while, and it was 72 beats per minute. So when I actually took it in the morning, like we just talked about, it was almost 10 beats per minute lower. So definitely try to do that in the morning. Okay, so next page 8 of the packet, we talk about calculating target heart rate. And this is going to be our key to working out smarter in our cardio sections of our workouts. So, excuse me. I am using a device to calculate heart rate that is called the Carvonen method. So I'll explain that here in a second. First of all, we need to find our maximum heart rate. And there is a sort of widely accepted calculation for that, which is 220 minus your age. So you can go ahead and calculate that now if you want to. And that's going to give you what they call your maximum heart rate. So what is your maximum heart rate? It's the highest beats per minute your heart can achieve. Okay. So I explained, I've had people over the years when I've been teaching different aerobics classes, and they've been like, oh my gosh, I was working out at my maximum heart rate for like 30 minutes. Okay, that's impossible. And I want you guys to have some clarity on this, because maximum heart rate is exactly what it says. It is the maximum beats per minute that your heart can beat for you individually. And it requires an all-out effort to get there, and therefore it is not sustainable. Even professional athletes, if they reach, which they do in training sometimes, their maximum heart rate, they can sustain it at most for around 3 to 4 minutes, which is actually a really long time to sustain it, which is why they're professional athletes. But it's just not possible. So in most cases, some people can't even maybe get to the point of their maximum heart rate. And if they do, they'll want to be done within seconds and or a shorter period of time. So it's that point where you're so uncomfortable that you don't want to go any further. I have actually done a treadmill maximum heart rate. I am going to tell you a little bit about it, but I don't want anybody attempting it without like a doctor's supervision or a trained professional. Okay, so basically what I did is I started moving my heart rate up, and you get to the point where you are at a point where you want to quit, where you're like, I can't go anymore. And that's what happens at maximum heart rate. It's the point at which your heart rate can't get any higher, but you're working so hard that you're basically either going to collapse or pass out. And if you pass out, you're going to collapse, obviously. So that is not a goal here in any way, shape, or form. In this program, I will never have you at your maximum heart rate. It's just important that you understand it. Okay, so basically during that test, I took it to what I felt like was my maximum capacity, and I kept going and I kept going, and then they moved it the speed up on my treadmill even further, which should have raised my heart rate even higher. And what happens at your max heart rate is it doesn't go any higher. Like your exertion can go more and your heart rate doesn't get any higher. So I had reached my maximum heart rate. I did that because I had multiple tests done over time to figure out all my zones and my max heart rate, and every single one of those tests showed a different max heart rate. That comes from user error in the test, from whoever is performing the test for you. They put their own things into the test, and the next thing you know, you're getting different calculations. So none of this is an exact science. We're going to use it as even some of the finest tests out there are not an exact science, okay? But we're going to use this as a foundation for building, and then we're going to do some perceived exertion to help us get as close as possible to our actual target heart rate zone so we can work out smart. So target heart rates are percentages of your maximum heart rate, and they guarantee optimal calorie and fat burning. They guarantee optimized fitness and performance improvement, and they help with maximal enjoyment of exercise, okay? So the maximum heart rate is what it is. It is not a trainable attribute. And what I mean by that, the better shape you get in, your maximum heart rate is not going to get higher. It is what it is, what it is. The one thing that can affect it, of course, is if you're on medications or something like that, there is a possibility that that can affect your heart rate. So if you have a heart condition and or you are taking medications that could be affecting your heart rate, I want to make sure that you're talking to your doctor about this program and about the target heart rate zones and things that you're going to learn here today. So the more fit you become, what does happen is you can do more. You can stay in your maximum heart rate longer, or you can do more within that zone than you could. So as you start to get more fit, that's what happens. But the maximum heart rate doesn't raise. Okay. So you guys got your maximum heart rate. That was 220 minus your age. So the deal is there's a lot of us that are the same age, but we don't necessarily have the same maximum heart rate. So this calculation is widely accepted and utilized by most fitness industry and professionals. But really it's too general because there's a lot of people that are the same age that are not going to be at that same maximum heart rate. So the Carvonen method is what I am utilizing because the Carvonen method of calculating target zones takes into consideration your resting heart rate. It puts it into the calculation. So normally to get target zones, someone says, this is your max heart rate. What's 90% of max? What's 80% of max? What's 70% of max? And on down. And those are your zones, okay? The Carvonen method actually takes into consideration into the calculation your resting heart rate. And resting heart rate is an indicator of your fitness level. So what I had discovered from testing this of my own accord is that this calculation came a lot closer to my actual target zones than anything else that I had seen out there. So this is our starting point. So if you're on page 8 of your packet, you're going to see step 2. We're going to take your maximum heart rate that you just calculated from 220 minus your age, and you're going to subtract your resting heart rate. In my case, it was 63. So I took 176 minus 63, and I got 113. And that is called my heart rate reserve. That's just a number we're going to utilize now to do the next step of the calculation. So you can pause me if you're in the middle of your calculations, but I'm going to keep moving. Step 3 is going to calculate your percentages of heart rate reserve. So this is where we get into that 100%, 90%, 80%, and on down. But you're going to take your heart rate reserve number, which mine was the 113, and you're going to take it times each of those percentages. So times 100%, which is obviously 113, times 90%, 0.9 on your calculator, 113 times 80%, 0.8 on your calculator, and on down through 50%. Okay? Then we're going to take that number, which was the percentage of heart rate reserve, okay? And we just zoned it out into target heart rates. We're going to take each of those numbers, so 113 times 100%. We're now in step 4 going to take that 113 plus my resting heart rate. So 113 plus 63 is 176. So I'm back at my max heart rate. That's what my original one was, and that's what it should be at 100%. Then we do that times the 90% category is going to be from your calculation of 90% above in step 3 plus 63. So 101.7 was mine, plus 63 is 165. So it details this out in your packet really clearly, but if you're confused or you have questions, please don't hesitate to put comments down below or email me or get in contact with me to get those questions answered, because I want to make sure you have these ready to go next week. Excuse me. Then you've got your target heart rates calculated here at 100%, 90%, 80%, all the way down through 50%. And then here is your Bible. This is the page after those calculations. You're going to fill it in. So zone 1 down here, which is in the purple. I'm sorry, it's backwards on here. This is going to be your 50 to 60% calculation. So in my case, 50 to 60% is 120 beats per minute to 131 beats per minute. Then in zone 2, you're going to put your 60 to 70%, zone 3, 70 to 80%, zone 4, 80 to 90, and then of course zone 5 to 90 to 100%. So pause, finish that up, get that filled in. Put in the comments below if you have questions. And then this is your Bible, and you have this in front of you, so the fact that it's backwards doesn't matter, but I just want to point out, zone 1, zone 2, you're going to learn all about this next week. This is our smart zone. This is where we're going to work out like crazy. And we're not really going to work out like crazy because we're in zone 1 and zone 2 the whole time, which means your heart rate is at a lower level. And the reason for doing that is because that's where our fat burning zone is. Primarily zone 2, which is your maximum fat burn zone. So if you work out here, you're burning more fat. If you work out here, you go up into aerobic, you're using more oxygen, you're working out a little bit harder, but you just went outside of your fat burning zone. And most of us, unless we're training for something specifically where we're trying to get faster for a race or something like that, we just want to look our best, right? We want to feel our best. So this is the zone we want to stay in. We will do some little bit of interval training that will take us up into this zone 3 for very short periods of time. But other than that, we'll be working out in these 3 zones. I will not be asking you to go up in zone 4 and zone 5. That doesn't mean sometimes you might not slip into zone 4 a little bit, but that's why we're going to wear heart rate monitors, which I'm not going to go into that in the video. We had some discussion in class about it. I really encourage people to post what they're using for heart rate monitors or fitness trackers. Some of the brands I named were Garmin, Scosche, Polar, Apple has a version. There are Fitbits. If you have something, start with what you have. Don't be obsessed about going out and buying the latest, greatest thing. Mine's 3 years old. I love it. It's the most accurate one I've found. It's a Garmin Vivo Active, and I use it in combination with a Scosche heart rate monitors. So my fitness trackers, on my wrist, they Bluetooth with one another. And I did mention that the Garmin that my son has that is newer and actually takes your heart rate right from the wristwatch, I don't feel like it's as accurate. So just post any questions and stuff you have about that. But that's the way that that's why we want to have a heart rate monitor when we're working out, because we're specifically trying to stay in these zones. Really quickly, the other thing I need to mention is taking our heart rate zones. I did this in the 5 o'clock class, but I don't think I did it in the 12 o'clock class. But I talked about if all else fails and you're just not going to get a heart rate monitor, or even if you do have a heart rate monitor and you're wanting to check it because something seems kind of off, you can, as you know, we talked about this before, you can take your pulse in your neck, and when you're exercising, as soon as you stop exercising, your heart rate starts to lower, especially the better shape you get in, you'll notice that you'll recover faster. So let's say you're on the treadmill and you're exercising and you want to take your heart rate. It's difficult sometimes to take your heart rate while you're exercising, especially like if you're running or walking. You just can't feel it as well necessarily. Now, I did it on the elliptical the other day, which doesn't have as much impact. And I was able to take my heart rate while I was on the elliptical. But depending on the exercise you're doing, you may have to stand still while you take it. When that happens, your heart rate immediately begins to lower. So when you're resting heart rate, I had you take it for 10 seconds and multiply it by 6 to get a 60-second count. When you're exercising, I only want you to take it for 6 seconds and then take it times 10. And the reason for that is you don't take it for quite as long, so it doesn't give your heart the opportunity to have less, to have less beats per minute. So it slows down, but if you do it in 6 seconds, it hasn't slowed down as much as it would have in 10 seconds. I hope that makes sense. I'm getting tired. I've done a lot of these videos. But anyway, any questions on that, guys? Let me know. Any questions about suggestions of heart rate monitors? I'm happy to talk to you more about that. Google it. You can also Amazon. Oh my gosh. Amazon sells them, and sometimes you can get them at better rates, and they usually have really good reviews and things. Sometimes if you belong to a fitness club, sometimes you can get better deals on them at your club if you're interested in that. But if you have one now, you have something to start with, start there. And we've always got options. This program is built that way. So anyway, this is your Bible, okay? And review this really carefully before the next class, okay? This is supposed to be to give you indicators, and these are my favorite. This was Kelly's suggestion, but Zone 1 is chatty Cathy. You can talk, kind of like I am now, and I could be exercising at the same time, and I would still be in Zone 1. I would not be sitting, though. I would be exercising. I just would be able to have full breath and be able to carry on a conversation. Zone 2 is light conversation. So it's like you could answer a question here and there, but you're not having a full-on conversation, okay? Zone 3 is where you start to really not be able to talk so much. Like you're starting to think like, yeah, no more talking. Zone 4 is where you're like getting crabby and you're like, don't talk to me or I might hurt you. And then Zone 5 is where you're like, where is the oxygen mask? I need to put it on. So those are just some indicators because we're going to be doing some perceived exertion. So this is what I want to talk about in a little bit more detail because I don't think I explained it very well in either class. But I had someone come up to me after with some questions, and she had such great questions that it helped me think, oh, yeah, I should have explained that better. So I did ask that this week that you guys do a perceived exertion test. Sorry, my calendar just came up. Bear with me, guys. There I am. Okay, so to do a perceived exertion, I talked about, I think the treadmill is the ideal way to do it, but you can also do it on like an elliptical, something where you can stay in kind of a fluid motion, but where you can increase the intensity is ideal, okay? So first and foremost, if you are someone who does not have access to that to do that this week, here are my suggestions. One is that if you have a friend or a family member or someone you work with who is a member somewhere, asking them if you can go with them for a day as a guest. You can do that quite often. Sometimes at a club, you'll have to fill out a little thing so that they can get back in touch with you and ask that you join their club. But almost every club offers that. You can also sometimes buy a day pass at a club for like $10. And if you have something close to you or a place that you're considering, that you've considered joining, maybe just go check it out for fun and either ask for a free day to exercise or pay $10 to do it. The good thing about that too is you can get a tour of the facility, kind of find out what they have. And you can even, like, if you haven't used a treadmill and you want to do this, have someone there who's giving you the tour, show you how it works, give you like a detailed assessment of that. Like front desk people will do that for you. You should be able to do that. The other thing is, if all else fails, I am a member at Planet Fitness. And just so you guys know, you can be a member there for $10 a month, which I think is just a complete steal. So I have a $20 membership, which gives me a month, which gives me some extra amenities. But with that, I can bring a guest any day. So if you're really in a situation where I'd be happy to take you as my guest this week, it'd just be a matter of whether or not we could coordinate our schedules. Excuse me, I have a little tickle in my throat. And then last but not least, you could do it in your own living room if you absolutely had to. And really what that's going to require is like doing some jogging, doing some high knees, doing some butt kickers, doing some jumping jacks. It's not as fluid, but you can still like take yourself to different levels and test it. So let's say you're doing your jumping jacks, okay? And you're perceiving, you're like, wow, like, you get your arms up above your heart and you're going to start to feel it more than if you're just jogging with them down here at your sides. So you're going to take it into zone 1, whatever takes you there first, and you're going to watch. If my zone 1 is 110 to 120 beats per minute, I'm here, I'm doing this. Does this feel like zone 1 to me? And let's say your zone 2 is when you cross over, let's say, to 123 beats per minute. So when you hit 123 beats per minute or get a little bit higher than that, do you feel the difference? And does it match the perceived exertion on the chart? You're just kind of playing with it this week to see, is that really in alignment? If you see anything that's really like, no, that's not right, or I was in the zone, because there is going to be variance from the calculations, and we're going to get really smart about it. And we're going to discover what those are. And those can change over time. Your zones can change over time too. So you can kind of take $200, $300 tests every time you want to test it. But if you get really smart about your body, you get really in tune to it, you can perceive that stuff of your own accord. So we're going to start learning that from the very beginning, and that's what it's all about. Next week is cardio, so we'll be using it next week. That's why this week I want you to play with it, okay? So again, perceived exertion. Let's say I'm on the treadmill. I get on the treadmill. I start to walk at whatever pace is comfortable for you. And you, first of all, your zone 1, you can be on there and be under a zone 1, which, it'd be like a cool down. You're not really having a whole lot of benefit from a aerobic standpoint for sure, but from a fat burning standpoint before you get into zone 1. So as you start to go into zone 1, you can either add speed or you can add elevation. If you're on elliptical, you can start to add resistance. And then you just watch it go up basically. And this could don't rush it, take your time, pay attention to what's happening, how you feel. Does it match the numbers? So then you take it up until you're in zone 2 and you sort of watch those zones. And all I want you to do, I don't want you to go past zone 3, but I do want you to get to the point if you feel safe doing it. If you don't, okay? But if you feel safe doing it, allow yourself to just topple up into that zone 3 and see if it matches where your zone 3 starts in your charts. Like, okay, my zone 3, let's say, is 156 beats per minute. That may be totally different than yours, but let's just say zone 3 for me starts at 156 beats per minute. For me personally, if that's mine, I feel it. 156 beats per minute, and I'm like, whew, I just crossed over into zone 3. I feel it. I don't want you to stay there. Once you get there, and so if this test takes you 5 minutes, fine. If it takes you 25 minutes, that's fine. Take your time. Do it more than once during the week if you want to check it out. And like I said, play with it. Make some notes about it. Send me things via email with questions and things about it. Put comments down below and what you noticed or what didn't seem right. Start exploring it. So that's the perceived exertion, guys, and that's how it worked. And I don't think I explained that very well. Hopefully I explained it a little bit better here. And I just want to, again, give you guys the opportunity to ask some more questions. So this is a 25-minute video. It's going along, but really quickly, there was another part of your sheet on page 9, which was the end of our heart rate calculations. And it said perceived exertion, and exertion was spelled incorrectly, and I know that, so you don't have to let me know that part. But I did perceived exertion heart rate test, and I have my zones listed there. And if you notice, my calculated target zones and my perceived exertion heart rate test are different, including my max heart rate. Okay. I only know that because I did that crazy max heart rate test. Okay. But you guys, we're going to be working in zone 1s to zone 3. So we can sort of backwards calculate it if your zones start to change. But I'm not worried about those zone 4, zone 5s anyway. I want to get your zone 1 to zone 3. And so all we need to do is we're just going to use this perceived exertion to get a more accurate read of where your heart rate zones really are. And I can help you with that process. So just stay in communication with me, guys. Sorry for the long video, but I really felt like heart rate is such an essential component of this that I needed to give it some more explanation. So again, please, please, please post questions, comments, things below, and I'll see you guys next week in class 2 for cardio, fitness, and fat burn. All right, good night, guys.